Oh, here we go. Not long now, talking about the one thing you know you need. We got the countdown. Oh, I love this bit. Go! And welcome back to Making Events Awesome live stream. I'm your host, Warwick Merry, CSPC VP twice. Hey, the live events are coming back. And as part of coming back, what I've found is there's one thing that people are after now more than ever. And this has been an issue for some time. It's been with events, there's just been, it's really been lacking, whether it be an online, a hybrid, a face-to-face event. So it's been an element that's been lacking. Hey, by the way, the Making Events Awesome live stream happens every Thursday at 9 a.m. If you and your friends love events of some description, why not share it with them? Click share now, share it with them, share good stuff. Or just make sure you're around about 9 a.m. Melbourne time every Thursday. All right, so what is the one thing that the events love? It is, of course, space. Now, I'm not talking physical space. I'm talking space in the agenda. Man, have you ever been to an event which is just like got back to back to back, and we've got 4 different streams, and we've got this going on, and there's no space? And it's becoming even more important now as we're more aware and acting on our awareness of some people's needs to have quiet space, quiet time, networking areas that aren't massively noisy, or opportunities to actually just step away. So why not incorporate that into your event? Have a low sensory room with just a single poster on the wall saying proudly brought to you by so-and-so's earmuffs. I don't know what it is, but it is having space. And it's the same for speakers. Speakers just often they get excited and they have their stories to tell, and they're just going bleh and blasting it down the screen or the microphone at you. A good friend of mine, Big Dave Staunton, amazing guy, so knowledgeable, has read so many books and done so many things. And he and I have had this conversation. One of the problems is he's got so much to share, and he's so generous that a conversation with him, let alone a keynote, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant. There's just so much that just comes. There is no chance that you're going to implement the stuff he's talking about. And he's learnt this, and was sharing some of this with me about how do you just give in a presentation, say 5 points, and then have some stories to back it up, and give the people space in the presentation to absorb it, to think about how can they implement this idea that you're talking about. What is the 1 or 2 simple things that they can do? So we need space. Now, it's the same in the hybrid and the virtual as well. There needs to be, and it's a delicate balance. In virtual, you can't have your breaks too big or have too much space, or people get lost and they'll default back to emails and Facebook and whatever other thing is distracting them at that time. But there has to be space built into it. There's an event that I've got that I'm helping produce coming up. We've got a whole stream set aside for networking, so that at any point in time, people can go to the digital networking area. We're using a service called Wonder, where people can hang out, connect. Because I don't know about you, but there'll be an event sometimes or a conference that I'll go to, and there's a lot of great stuff on, but there's a few chunks where you're like, you know what, I really don't need to see any of these events. I'd prefer to catch up with some of my colleagues, or go and have a chat with the sponsors, or whatever it is. So it is about how do we build that space in. Now, an expo floor is a great place for space, but there has to be some space where the delegates can actually be encouraged to get together and network, and or just have conversations and or ruminate over what's been said from the main stage. So how are you adding space? That is the question I would ask you in your presentations. If you are a speaker, or maybe you're an industry expert and you're talking about stuff, how do you add space? If you talk about good PowerPoint or good slide design, they talk about having a lot of extra space. You're not going to just jam it packed full of images and text and formulas and diagrams. There has to be space, because it's in the space that you get these learning moments. You have the ability to step back and go, oh yeah, and that's what events are all about. It's the oh yeah, whether it's the connecting with the person, having that conversation. So space is the number one thing our delegates wants now more than ever, particularly because we're coming out of the pandemic where we've been used to not hanging out with too many people. And as a few of my friends and colleagues have talked about going to some events, they're like, oh, it's very people-y. There's lots of people. So how do we give them the space, both physical and metaphorical, so that they can process what's going on, have some space to think about what they want to do with what they've learned, and go from there. So if you are a presenter, build space in what you're doing. Have those opportunities for people to take that knowledge and just really condense it. And if you're physically organizing it, it's important to make sure that there's space around. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, it is so true that you need that space. And I know, Margaret, for you, in organizing the fantastic conferences that you do, which are very heavy medical. So there's very heavy, intense details there. You cannot take it all in. So it's important to grab a bit of space. If you're looking for a bit of space for you and the events that you're organizing, come and hang out in our space. We've got a great space called Making Events Awesome. It's a Facebook group where we just talk about events and how do we make them awesome. Nothing to sell, just hanging out. So I'd love to have you come and hang out with me. But yeah, really look at how can you add space in the physical and also the metaphorical, not metaphysical. That's getting a bit too carried away. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it is about allowing your delegates to have time, or, make time to take time. And I think building that into your program, building it into the plan, so it is not that constant, do this, and then I can do that, and then I can do this, and then I can do that. Or at the very least, if you do have multiple streams, encourage people to take a break. You don't have to go to everything. I think we've been to events where we end up exhausted because we've been to this, and I've been to that, and then I went to this, and I spoke to them, and then I did that, and didn't do the other. And then I went and had lunch with a friend, and then I just went and sat and wrote some notes and thought about how can I apply this. I think so. Giving permission to step away is an important element as well, which is sort of counterintuitive to the sponsors wanting everybody there all the time and the organizer wanting there to be a buzz in the room. But it is about looking at bigger picture in terms of what do our delegates need. And now that we are coming back from the pandemic and getting more into face-to-face, we value our space a little bit more. That, we're so used to that 1.5 meters or to not having too many people in the room. So having some of that space makes a big difference. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Hunzy. Yeah, nice. Having space between your eyes and your contact lenses. That's what my glasses are for. And he's pointing out that, yes, I've been wearing glasses because I got some weird-ass thing going on in my eye. Hey, Fab, good to have you here. And yes, for those of you who pay extra for a distinguished MC with glasses, and I appreciate that. So, and you're right, Margaret, that you do. You forget half of what you learn by going to everything. So it really is looking at what are the key points that you can take away. All right. Hey, that's it for today. The key thing that you really want for your events is space. Build it into your presentation if you're a speaker, build it into your event if you're the event organizer. If you are the client who's, wants to put this event on, look at ways that you can use that space to the betterment of the delegates who are attending. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out. As I say, if you need a bit of space where we're going to talk about events and talk about all the things that are happening with events, head on over to Making Events Awesome. It's a Facebook group. Love to have you there, makingeventsawesome.com. You've been fantastic. Thanks so much for being here. I'll be back again next Thursday at 9 a.m. And we talk about how to make events awesome, obviously by putting in space. All right. Thanks for being here. That's the end of the show. Now I do my little dance at the end of the live stream. LinkedIn cuts off so quick. So I've got to have the dance. And then when you look at the recording, the dance is not there. But I think the dance is on YouTube. Maybe I'll have a compilation of all my end of live stream dances. Maybe I'll do other crazy things.